They did it. WWE actually did it. And the fact that this leaked before they could control the narrative tells you everything you need to know about how desperate they are right now. Chris Jericho, the man who spent the last 6 years building AEW, the man who became the face of WWE's competition, the man who literally helped Tony Khan launch an entire wrestling company, is coming back to WWE on the 5th of January Raw. And if you think this is just another nostalgic return for a quick pop, you have no idea what's really happening behind the scenes. Before we get into the nuclear fallout this is going to create, let me be absolutely clear about something. This isn't speculation. This isn't fantasy booking. This isn't some wrestling dirt sheet trying to generate clicks. Multiple sources within WWE's production team have confirmed that Jericho's return is not only locked in, but that creative has already been finalized for his first several months back. The contract is signed. The storyline is mapped out. And WWE has been praying this wouldn't leak before they could orchestrate the perfect surprise. Well, too late. The cat's out of the bag, and the wrestling world is about to implode. Here's the question that should be eating you alive right now. If Chris Jericho is coming back to WWE, what does that say about the current state of AEW? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments because this goes way deeper than one man jumping ship. Let's talk about what we know. According to the leaked information, Jericho's WWE return isn't going to be some Legends appearance or Hall of Fame induction ceremony stretched across a Raw episode. This is a full-time, active roster return with a multi-year deal that reportedly makes him one of the highest-paid performers in the company. We're talking main event money. We're talking creative control clauses. We're talking about WWE pulling out every single stop to bring back a man who, just 2 years ago, was calling them a dying empire in interviews. The Raw after New Year's Day has traditionally been a big show for WWE coming off the holiday break, building momentum toward Royal Rumble and ultimately WrestleMania. But this year, WWE apparently decided they needed something bigger than just good wrestling and solid storytelling. They needed a nuclear bomb. They needed someone whose return would break the internet, dominate social media, and send shockwaves through the entire wrestling industry. Chris Jericho is that bomb. Here's where it gets absolutely insane. The leaked details suggest that Jericho's return isn't just about him coming back to WWE, it's about him directly targeting the Bloodline saga. Think about that for a second. The Bloodline has been WWE's most protected, most important storyline for over 3 years. Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, the Usos, Sami Zayn, this entire ecosystem of storytelling has been treated as sacred ground. And WWE is reportedly bringing in Chris Jericho to shake the entire foundation. The reported plan has Jericho interrupting a Bloodline segment during the 5th of January Raw, cutting a promo that essentially positions him as the veteran who's disgusted by what the Bloodline has become and what they represent. He's not coming back as a face or a heel in the traditional sense, he's coming back as Chris Jericho, the man who's done everything in this business and has nothing left to prove except that he's still the best at manipulating crowds and stealing shows. What's your prediction? Does Jericho align with someone in WWE or does he go solo? Let me know in the comments. Now let's address the elephant in the room, AEW. Chris Jericho has been with All Elite Wrestling since day one. He was their first major signing. He was their first AEW World Champion. He's been in some of their most important matches and storylines. He helped legitimize the entire company in the eyes of casual fans who weren't sure if AEW was going to be another failed WWE alternative. And now he's leaving. Or is he? Here's where the story gets murky and honestly pretty shady. Some sources suggest that Jericho's AEW contract actually expired in late December, which would make this a clean, legal jump to WWE. But other sources are whispering that there might have been some creative contract maneuvering happening behind the scenes, buyouts, early termination clauses, or agreements that were reached months ago but kept secret from AEW's locker room and even some executives. If Jericho has been planning this return while still appearing on AEW television, that's not just business, that's betrayal on a level that could fundamentally damage relationships throughout the industry. Wrestlers talk, promoters remember. And if Jericho orchestrated this jump while still cashing AEW checks and working their shows, there are going to be a lot of people who never forgive him. The timing is also incredibly suspicious and, frankly, brutal for AEW. They are heading into their own critical period with several major shows scheduled, television negotiations reportedly in progress, and serious questions about their momentum and direction. Losing Chris Jericho, regardless of how you feel about his recent work, is a massive blow to their credibility and their ability to claim they are a legitimate alternative to WWE. Think about the message this sends to every other AEW wrestler. If Chris Jericho, one of the company's founding pillars, can jump back to WWE after everything he said about creative freedom and loving the AEW environment, what's stopping anyone else? What's stopping MJF, who's been vocal about wanting to eventually get to WWE? What's stopping Adam Cole, who has deep WWE relationships? What's stopping anyone who feels like their ceiling in AEW might be lower than their potential ceiling in WWE? Here's another question for the comments. Does this make you respect Jericho more for getting the bag, or lose respect for him for going back on everything he said about AEW? Let's talk about what this means for WWE's locker room, because that's a whole other powder keg waiting to explode. You've got guys like Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Cody Rhodes who have been grinding week after week, carrying the company through injuries, personal challenges, and creative ups and downs. And now WWE is bringing in Chris Jericho, who's been working a lighter AEW schedule and reportedly putting him immediately into a top position. How do you think that sits with wrestlers who've been loyal to WWE, who turned down AEW offers, who stayed committed even when things got difficult? There's going to be resentment. There's going to be locker room tension. And WWE better have a plan for managing those dynamics, because veterans don't take kindly to someone who left the company coming back and immediately getting pushed ahead of people who stayed loyal. The reported creative direction is also fascinating and potentially brilliant. Instead of trying to recreate any of Jericho's previous WWE personas, Y2J, the suit-wearing heel, the list of Jericho, WWE is apparently letting him create something entirely new. A character that acknowledges his AEW run, doesn't pretend it didn't happen, but positions it as him going away to prove he didn't need WWE, only to realize that the biggest stages and the biggest moments still happen in WWE. It's meta, it's self-aware, and it's the kind of storytelling that could either be absolutely genius or completely blow up in their faces depending on how it's executed. Because if Jericho comes back and cuts promos that feel like they are burying AEW, it's going to come across as petty and desperate. But if he comes back and simply positions himself as the ultimate mercenary who goes wherever he can make the biggest impact, it could be incredibly compelling. The Royal Rumble implications are massive. Imagine Chris Jericho entering the Royal Rumble, a match he's won before, and eliminating multiple people on his way to a potential showdown with Cody Rhodes or Centimeter Punk. Imagine the storytelling possibilities of Jericho, who left WWE and came back, facing off against Punk, who also left WWE and came back. The promos write themselves. And WrestleMania? If WWE is smart, they are already planning for Jericho to have a marquee match in Las Vegas. Whether it's against an established star, a rising talent who needs the rub, or even a surprise opponent from outside WWE, Jericho at WrestleMania is money. It's mainstream attention. It's media coverage. It's everything WWE wants as they continue trying to position themselves as not just a wrestling company but an entertainment empire. Here's my last question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for Jericho's WWE return, and why? Be honest in the comments. The leaked spoiler also suggests that WWE has been planning this for months, which means every recent Jericho appearance in AEW needs to be re-examined through a different lens. Was he positioning himself for this return? Was he working with WWE creative even while still under AEW contract? Were there subtle hints we all missed because we weren't looking for them? What's undeniable is that the 5th of January 2026 is going to be a massive night for WWE and potentially a devastating night for AEW. Chris Jericho returning to WWE doesn't just change the landscape of one company, it shifts the entire wrestling industry's power dynamics. It reinforces WWE's position as the ultimate destination for wrestling talent. It raises serious questions about AEW's ability to retain their top stars long-term. And it gives WWE exactly the kind of mainstream buzz they need heading into their most important period of the year. Whether you love Jericho or hate him, whether you think this is a brilliant business move or a sellout betrayal, one thing is certain: wrestling is about to get very, very interesting. The forbidden door isn't just open, it's been kicked off its hinges. And Chris Jericho is walking through it with a sledgehammer in one hand and a WWE contract in the other. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, because we're going to be covering every single development of this story. Share this video with everyone who needs to know what's coming, and get in those comments with your predictions, your reactions, and your thoughts on what might be the most significant wrestling return of the decade. The 5th of January, Raw, Chris Jericho. It's happening. and nothing in wrestling will ever be the same.